Welcome back to Fresh Faces, No Ideas. My name's David. If you like the channel or you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe so you can keep up to date on all my content, any changes that I make, or when I go live. You can also follow me at Twitter at Faces Ideas. Now, we're going to talk about the response to the Derek Chauvin trial. It was not George Floyd was not on trial, Derek Chauvin was. So, he was found guilty yesterday on all three charges, which is good. He should have been. He was guilty of all of them. We watched it happen. So what we're going to look at is some of the conservatives' response. We're going to look at Tim Pool. We'll look at Steven Crowder. We're going to look at Ben Shapiro. And these are just, some of the tweets that they put up. We're also going to put out a video of Greg Gutfeld on the 5 and how insane his response was. And Tucker Carlson talking to Candace Owens. And just, that is a wild interview. We're not going to go through all Tucker because basically his whole hour was just him losing it. Now, let's remember there's some important things. Before we go into that, there's some important things to remember. The reason this went to trial is not because the other officers turned him in. The reason this went to trial is because a bystander took a video of it, of Derek Chauvin on George Floyd's neck. Because I'm going to show you what the police report said. And this is why it's very important that people know their rights. You do have the right to film police officers. They don't have the right to take it from you. So, when they do try to stop you, it's because they know they're doing something wrong. The footage was the first thing, and it was so visceral, and it was so viral, and it was so obvious what he was doing was wrong. That's what caused it. It's very rare in these cases that you see the police turn on each other, and they did in this one. His captain testified against him. The 911 dispatcher testified against him. A whole bunch of police officers testified against him, saying that this was wrong. Look, this was the most egregious case. It is not the last case. But let's remember, there are often times they get off on this. Since 2005, there have been about 1,000 people killed by the police every year. 5 of them, not including the Derek Chauvin one, have been prosecuted and found guilty of murder. I'm not saying that all of them are wrong, but a large percentage of them go undone. Most recently, you can think of the Daniel Safer one. You can think of Eric Gardner. You can think of Tamir Rice. You can think of Philando Castile. There's just so many names that we just know because of how this has happened. So it's very rare. And look, Derek Chauvin was just so, stands out because of how long it was. He did it for so long. It wasn't, with these, you can bang arguments of, he was afraid for his life because the guy said, I have a gun, even though I legally can carry it in the case of Philando Castile. Or the guy was a lunatic in the Daniel Schaefer case, where the guy had "get fucked" written on his his rifle, and they couldn't put that into evidence. And the video shows him crying and begging for his life when the guy killed him. This is not one of those cases. We saw him die. You could watch the video, and you can watch the lights leave George Floyd's eyes. So there's that. So let's take a look at, first, what the police report was. And when I read it to you, I want you to think about, does what I'm reading match what we saw happen? And we have to think about, this is what people are talking about when they talk about police accountability and defunding the police and changing police culture. Then we're going to see some of the responses, Tim Pool's, Steve Crowder's, Ben Shapiro's response, and then we're going to go to the video. So let's look at this first. This is the Minneapolis Police. This is what they said happened. Man dies after medical incident during police interaction. May 25th, 2020. On Monday evening, shortly after 8 p.m., officers from the Minneapolis Police Department responded to the 3700 block of Chicago Avenue South on a report of a forgery progress. Officers were advised that the suspect was sitting on top of a blue car and appeared to be under the influence. 2 officers arrived and located the suspect, a male believed to be in his 40s, in his car. He was ordered to step from his car. After he got out, he physically resisted officers. Officers were able to get the suspect into handcuffs and noted he appeared to be suffering from medical distress. Officers called for an ambulance. He was transported to the Hennepin County Medical Center by ambulance, where he died a short time later. At no time will weapons of any type be used by anyone involved in this incident. So what this says is, he attacked them and they just responded, and he just overdosed, and that's how he died. That's not what happened. If you've seen the video, you know this. Now let's be clear. The overall argument I'm going to make, and I'll probably make this more in a live stream, is not just that black people are killed more often than white people, which is true. And it is not because of 1350, which is, I'll probably have to do a video on that at some point as more people respond with that type of argument. It's a general issue with the police. Anytime, and now we know, this was reported today, Merrick Arlington said that they're going to do an investigation into the Minneapolis Police Department, which they should. This is one of the things that was stopped under Trump, and it was one of the things that was barely done under Obama. On a good year, they looked into 3 departments. There's over 10,000 police departments across the country. When things like this happen, an outside investigator needs to look into this and try it, because you can't have the police being tried by the people they work with. That's not how this works, because that puts them in a conflict of interest. So let's take a look at some of the responses from Tim Pool and Stephen Crowder. So this is Tim Pool. Tim Pool he says a journalist. He pretends to be a liberal, but he's really a conservative. Here's his response to George Floyd, Derek Chauvin being charged. He said, "Let this be a lesson to all police. You will get charged. You will be imprisoned." Yes, that should be the lesson. The fact that you say this like it's a bad thing is a problem. If you murder somebody, you need to pay the consequences. He murdered somebody. We watched it happen. Now let's go to Steven Crowder. Now Steven Crowder, we know, is so who is Steven Crowder? Steven Crowder is a comedian. He's also a virulent racist. He most recently got thrown off of Twitter for a little while because he did a very racist rant against black farmers, and then he did he said, "Okay, I'm going to test the fake to see if the knee on your neck will kill you." So he actually did this also with Jeffrey Epstein, where he tried to strangle himself. So when he did the George Floyd one, however, his friend was basically on his. So the difference between that is he couldn't even do this correctly. Because he knows this is going to harm him and probably kill him. Is his friend was sitting basically back on his heels, and he was like leaning his weight mostly off of him. And then he was on his neck for maybe 30 seconds or a minute or so, and then he shifted it to his shoulders. We know from the trial that Derek Chauvin lifted his feet off of the ground, so all of his weight was on George Floyd's neck. We know this. We saw this happen. So here's his say of this is a response. This is Martin Luther King III. Today, justice was served for the Floyd family, but we're still in a nation clothed in injustice. True justice for black Americans can only come through a complete revolution of values. We need to overhaul the system's deeply rooted racism. This is true. Look, the police in their start were slave catchers. This has been pointed out numerous times. This is what they started as. He said, of course, this is going to be a pivot. Expect more police to quit in the coming weeks. And this is the perfect response to this, and I'm just going to sum it up with this. If cops are quitting because they can't murder with their bare hands, why are you upset? And this is the other thing that I'll go into with the other 2 tweets. This is the thought process that they have. Oh, now police are going to quit because they can't do their jobs. And we've already seen this happen. During the start of the BLM riots, the BLM protests, when the Buffalo police shoved that old guy, and he fell and he got and he started bleeding, and they charged that officer. 75 officers quit in response to that. Any officer who quits because they say, "Oh, I can't do my job now because I'm afraid of getting Derek Chauvin," should not be a policeman. If you think that your job requires you to physically kill people, and because you can't do that without not facing consequences, you have to quit, you should not be a police officer. So here's another one. We shouldn't celebrate the verdict of a trial in which we all saw this man murder somebody. We shouldn't have to be relieved. It shouldn't have been up for debate. We saw it. Save your celebrations. There's work to do. And his response is, appeasing the mob is futile. No, Dave Chappelle is, I think this is Dave Chappelle, is right. We saw it. This was as closed an open and shut case as there could be. The fact that there was so much tension because of this is a problem. Because if you think about it, his response was, what we saw was a man get murdered for over 10 minutes. And should the jury have decided that was okay, people who are suffering at the hands of the police or in response to police understand that the police can kill you in whatever way they want and there will not be consequences. So yes, we should not be relieved. The fact that this is a relief in this particular case is a travesty. Now let's go to Ben Shapiro. Now, once again, Ben Shapiro is supposed to be the big brain smart guy. He's responding to Don Lemon, CNN Don Lemon, justice has been served. And we all know he would never have said this had the reverse verdict had been reached. Yes, Ben, because that's how justice works. If Derek Chauvin had been freed and found not guilty in all accounts, we would have watched a murderer walk free. And that's called justice not being served. So now let's... Hi, thank you for watching another video from Fresh Faces New Ideas. Please like and subscribe and follow me on Twitter at Faces Ideas. Now, what we just looked at was a whole bunch of conservatives getting upset that there was a guilty verdict. And the response was, oh, well, now the police aren't going to do their jobs. And the answer is good. If you're a police officer who won't do their job or quits because of this, you should not have been a police officer. If you're only a police officer or you feel like you can't be one because you can no longer murder people with impunity, it is better for you not to be a police officer. Because a police officer's job is to bring people in to be sentenced and to face the actual criminal justice system. They're not a shortcut to execution. That's not how this works. So, any officers who quit because of this should not be hired back under any circumstances because their reasoning is awful and they are a danger to society. Now, once again, thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Please follow me on Twitter at Faces Ideas, and I will see you in the next one.